burdens. It burdens. It burdens. Until the choir relents, accepting. I out.
Destiny 2 Season of the Haunted is an emotional journey that ties off some loose ends and leaves us with a large hook that will lead us to the penultimate season of Destiny 2 The Witch Queen, pushing us ever forward towards Lightfall. Hey everyone, this is the Void Touched here, and today we're going to go ahead and take a look back at the Season of the Haunted, see everything that happened in a quick little replay of it. So, without further ado, here we go. Season of the Haunted opens with a small recap where we get shown the Luna Pyramid and are sort of reintroduced back into the small little plot points that we got from Shadowkeep. As that happens, we see the helm taking off, and an amazing twist. It turns out that it is an actual ship that is leaving the city. It is taking orbit around the moon, and we see the Leviathan on the other side. The Guardian enters the Leviathan for Operation Midas, the initial investigation, and we're shown a ship that once was decadent and gold-laced with all the filigree of the royal capacity that Callus believes that he has, is now covered in this egregore, this ethereal plant from an icy moon way out in the system. The only two that we know in the lore that have actually been there now are Callus with the egregore that's in the Leviathan, and Drifter, who mentions it in a lore card to Eris, that it's on an icy moon that she'll have to use her ship for, and he will drive, so forth and so forth. Little lore tidbit for the Drifter: this is the place where he got into a firefight with his fire team and killed them all and left. The true reason behind that we don't fully know, but it has to be linked to the egregore in some way. When we leave the Leviathan, we come back to the helm, and we're treated to a ritual that is performed by Crow, Zavala, Eris, and the Guardian. During this ritual, they bind Crow and Zavala's nightmares, one of Uldren for Crow and Sophia, Zavala's late wife. And we see that not only are they bound, but it looks like it's actually giving some physical manifestations in their body, whether they're actually feeling the grief greatly or it's causing them some sort of pain or stress. It's not exactly clear. Hive magic is always strange that way. It could be a completely emotional aspect. We do get one of the most evil scenes I've ever seen for Eris as she drifts down from the crown of sorrow after completing the ritual. And I really feel like that's foreshadowing some things for Eris, and there's some other things we'll talk about that in a moment as we continue on in the season. After the ritual is complete, we see a quick clip of Keitel, who did not do the ritual. She refused to be part of the hive magic that she believes that Eris is playing right into Callus's hands with. But we do see that she's now being haunted by the nightmare of Gaul. We then spend the first 2 weeks of Season of the Haunted doing sever missions with Crow, getting Crow much needed therapy, noting his differences to Uldren. At the end of it all, after you've fought through Fickle twice, you fail the first sever because Crow wasn't ready. Crow hadn't had enough therapy, and then Crow logs all of his online therapy hours, and now you go in and do it a second time, and at the end of it, instead of banishing the nightmare of Uldren or dissipating it or anything like that, Crow turns Uldren's nightmare into a memory. He glows blue. We end up seeing him floating around in the helm above the radio station. And he now is not looking at it as a point in his life to fear, but something to learn from, something to grow from, something to utilize as he himself, as Crow, not only discovers who he is in this world as a risen former, lack of a better term, former villain.
Yeah. You point out the pitfalls, I'll fill them in. We'll right your wrongs together. See you around.
Amanda also has a falling out with Crow. We first get it through a radio transmission where she tells Crow off because she's discovered that Crow is Aldrin, and leaves with that poignant "I had a friend and you killed him" line, which is just a knife in Crow's chest. But at the same time, it is a very much understandable reaction to a human such as Holiday, who doesn't fully understand and grasp what it means to be an immortal like a Risen. Every Risen, I'm sure, had to go through some sort of adjustment period with who they are, especially those that are freshly raised like Aldrin slash Crow. So there is an adjustment period, and this is a very good look at how a lot of humans react to that. We also get a lore card where Amanda goes and seeks advice from Mithrax. Speaks to Mithrax about Saint 14 and how the Elixni eventually forgave Saint. And Mithrax says that some didn't. And it's never the choice of the offender of who forgives them. It's always those that were offended or were wronged. They make the choice on forgiveness. And that hurts Amanda even more, because it seems like she was looking for a way to either forgive or move on, and not in a way that like she wanted to, but in the type of sense that she wanted to just be done. And while that is a very respectable mentality, like Mithrax points out to her, basically that's just not something that can happen. When Amanda does ask, "Why did you forgive Saint?" Because Mithrax is a very big individual who's been through a lot and has done a lot. So it is a very pointed and very apt question for this situation. And Mithrax simply responds, "Because I want to be forgiven too." After that, the next 2 weeks of Sever are having to do with Zavala. And he is processing his trauma, first losing his son Hakim, and then ultimately his wife Sophia. After we go through the process of Zavala failing the first Sever mission because he wasn't ready to face his grief, and then he too goes and does the online therapy sessions like Crow did, hits all of his hours with amazing numbers and just upright gusto, and we go back into the Sever mission. He confronts Sophia and turns her also into a memory. After he turns Sophia into a memory, he is comforted by the thought of seeing them in his dreams. So hopefully Zavala does get to finally hear his son Hakim's voice one more time, at least in his dreams. We do also find out through the final triage card that Sophia's bloodline continued for 10 generations after Zavala left, before they came to the last city. Zavala was able to utilize the hidden through Ikora to keep an eye on them. He knew when they were born, he knew when they were sick, and he knew when they died. And he would never speak to them while they were alive. He would always come after and always ask the same question of forgiveness, mostly for Hakim's death, but also for leaving Sophia. It's a life that he never quite understood where he was at. He was so broken after all of that happened, and he hadn't processed any of it. We learned through the cards that he went from, because Sophia's sister contacted her when she died of old age. Zavala arrived, he paid his respects, he met Sophia's daughter, who he had no idea if she even knew who he was. And then he kept coming. The next one that died, the next one that died, the next one that died. It went from being just an empty hill with a single gravestone to a full graveyard of all of Sophia's family and bloodline that was buried there with her. And then 10 generations pass from that, and then they're in the last city. And he continues watching over them. The hidden continue giving him updates. And then the endless night happens. And when the endless night happened and the Vex invaded, and there was a Vex attack in the last city, countless people died. Many humans, many innocent, like defenseless humans and Elixni were killed by the Vex when they got in there. And some of them didn't have bodies. Some of them were vaporized like the Vex do. They were teleported into and exploded like some Elixni were on Europa when they were fleeing and found Mithrax. The Vex were absolutely vicious in the attack on the last city. And in the process of this, the final descendant, or descendants, because it doesn't say how many there are, but the final members of Sophia's family, of her bloodline, die in the endless night. And they don't just die like they were shot and Zavala has someone to bury. There's no bodies left. They're gone. And no one knows of them. This isn't a bloodline. This isn't painted like a group of people that were celebrated or missed or are extremely important to the zeitgeist that is the Last City. These were just citizens, and there was no one left to mourn them. Zavala couldn't do this grandiose thing for just these group of humans that probably only knew his name just from the stories of Commander Zavala, the vanguard of the Titans, the amazing guardians that protect the Last City. So it is a very somber time with Zavala, but he comes to terms with all of it. The final triage card ends with him picking up the knitting needles that Sophia gave him to start knitting again. So we do see that Zavala is going through his grief and is processing all of those. The last 2 weeks are actually some very interesting weeks when it comes to Keitel, and I really do appreciate it. She was not part of the initial ritual, but she's seen the success that we've had, and she's gotten impatient. So we end up having to chase her through the Leviathan for a little bit in the underbelly with her first Sever mission, where she's trying to confront Gaul. Also super cool because the first 2 Sever missions have been, the first 4, I guess, have been very stealth oriented. They have been very like not a lot of enemies, a lot of puzzle solving. There's in at least one of them for Crow, there was the immortal nightmare that was chasing you around. But in Keitel's, it is very much different. You are confronting the horrors with a military presence. You fight through the first half of the Sever mission just by yourself, going through fighting the Loyalists and defeating these clones. And then you eventually meet up with 2 members of the Cabal Coalition that have joined with the Guardians. And you fight alongside them as you destroy countless Loyalist clones and Scorn and turrets and nightmares. You fight your way all the way to a door that takes you into what looks like an old trophy room on the Leviathan. And in there is Gaul's Hammer of Proving, for when he came forward and proved himself in the gladiatorial rings. You've dropped down. We kill the Invincible Nightmare in an immolation hall, basically, and then go forward and we see Keitel's first bout with Gaul.
Get on with it.
Good luck, Keitel.
In my
In this, we learn a lot about Gaul and Keitel's dynamic. We have to fight Gaul like he was at the end of the Red War campaign as a nightmare, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Gaul wins. We leave with Keitel. As we leave with Keitel, though, normally at this point it would be the end of the story for the week, and then we'd have to go on to the next section. But what ends up happening is we go to the moon. Nightmares are going crazy on the moon. We go to a specific lost sector, K1 Revelations. And in there is the one where you have the multiple spawns of Hive with the crystals above them. You have to kill the Hive, kill the wizard, destroy the crystal, and then kill the ogre that is the ogre nightmare being protected by the crystals. After you do that and you clear out the rest of the enemies, opening the chest, it doesn't show it in your inventory, it doesn't give it to you, but the Guardian finds an artifact in that chest that is related to the darkness in the pyramids. And they then take this artifact to the Luna Pyramid. They start following it. And when they get to the Luna Pyramid, they find these group of loyalists that disembarked from the Leviathan the moment it showed up on the moon, and they vanished. And now they have been found on the ground in front of the Lunar Pyramid, dead, completely devoid of life. But their entire nervous system, their esophagus, everything about them is just filled with egregore. And it's revealed that Callus put his consciousness, part of it, into these loyalists filled with egregore, used them as puppets, or they did it willingly. It's not 100% specific on that, but they went to the Luna Pyramid, and then Callus went from the egregore to the pyramid. So it was a much more direct connection. So even this whole time, while we have been severing Callus's connections to the Leviathan through the sever missions, he had a workaround. He was pretty smart about it already.
I see now. Their lives were forfeit. Spent
After that, there are some lore cards that show that Keitel spoke to Valis Forge, Saladin, on her flagship, asking her if Eris is a valuable ally and can be trusted. And Saladin himself convinces Keitel that Eris isn't just an ally, Eris is a survivor. Eris has been a trump card, a amazing skill, a valuable ally in the entire fight against the darkness. And this convinces Keitel, okay, then the ritual must be something that needs to be done. She contacts Eris. We get a radio transmission where Eris and Keitel speak and talk of doing the ritual. And then we do the second week of Sever the next week, where we go in and Keitel confronts Gaul, and Keitel turns Gaul into a memory. And with that, we have all three nightmares that were originally part of this that are now memories. And we've severed all of the connections from Callus to from the Leviathan to the pyramid, except not a lot of things seem to change. It isn't until the next week when we get the final mission that takes us into the Leviathan. The last mission, titled Catharsis, sees Keitel, Zavala, Crow, Eris, and the Guardian infiltrate the Leviathan one final time to try to get to the throne room to confront Callus to end all of this. As you're fighting way to the throne room, being a distraction, you're treated to audio lines of Crow, Zavala, and Eris individually taking care of their own amplifiers. We have Keitel as well, but we'll get to her in just one second, because Zavala and Crow all get ambushed, and they have a very bad time. So Eris has to go save Crow, who then have to go and save Zavala. So they are effectively removed at this point from the end of the story of the Catharsis mission. You go into the throne room, there's a whole gathering of Guardian nightmares around the elevator portion of the throne room that used to be where you would go to take the rewards when you beat the raid. You go stand amongst them all, and that elevator once again lowers and takes you down into the staging area, the storage area basically for the automatons of Callus, and there's hundreds in there as far as the eye can see. And at the end of the walkway is a portal. When you go through it, you find yourself in the Chantry of Darkness on the Luna Pyramid. You meet up with Keitel, and then the two of you step forward to challenge Callus. A giant projection of Callus's head appears. He summons the nightmares we've been fighting of Fickrel, Cathix, and Gaul, and we have to fight through them. We get protected by her barrier every now and then. She's got some amazing stomps, but is on our side. After we defeat one of the nightmares, we hear the Uldren memory come up saying, "Oh, I'm here to help. You can't stop me." And then as you defeat the next nightmare, you get Sophia coming in saying, "We will do this." And then when you defeat Gaul, it ends. Callus explodes. The big giant projected Callus head explodes and it just dissipates into nothingness. We're treated to a cutscene where the three memories, starting with Gaul, who you barely see to the right a little bit, but then focusing more on Uldren and Sophia, dissipate and fade away. They're like they are moving on to the next world or anything like that. And Keitel and Zavala seem to have a much more bonding moment as the two of them are coping with their grief alongside another warrior such as themselves. And this is really pushing the Zavala-Keitel relationship, and I do appreciate that. They ask where Callus is. Keitel says he's dead, gone. What he used to be is no longer there. He's given himself over completely to the witness.
My father is gone.
Sophie.
I'm assuming tears are just difficult to animate. And this is the last mission we have for a while. The solstice happens, a small celebration for the Guardians, which was a very revelry-based celebration, building bonfires and things of the like.
Eidolons of Bob. The outside.
And then a few weeks later, after the solstice has ended and the Guardians return to the helm, due to a containment breach alarm. And when they arrive, they find that the egregore has left from around the containment area where the tomb ship and the crown of sorrow are stored in the helm, and it's kind of grown beyond the small staircase that was taken down where it was, and has overtaken most of the middle of the helm as well. Callus suddenly gets projected into the helm, and Callus talks about offering the Guardian mountains of riches and gold, but the Guardian chooses a different fate. He taunts the Guardian, and as we find out later, he's also taunting the last city at the exact same time, that if they wanted to be devoured by the witness, he would sit back and watch. For the witness has set their covetous gaze on the traveler itself.
A feeble flame, easily extinguished. But you need not share that fate. I invite you to instead join me in revelry and embrace the inevitable. Alas, you have always been stubborn. So, if you insist on being devoured, then I will savor your final moments. Until our next reunion, Guardian.
Callus's projection leaves. We talk to Zavala. He informs us that the last city was told of this. So every human in the last city also knows of Callus and the witness's threat, even if some of the Vanguard's details had been kept secret from them, like the witness's existence itself. Callus just broadcast that to every member of the last city. And even, of course, even those who are not in the last city, I'm pretty sure we're able to see this projection as well. So that is definitely pushing us forward into the next season, whatever happens with that. There are a few things that are separate from the Season of the Haunted plot that also happened that I feel are going to be very important for future seasons and future content, and these are small little plot lines that are moving us forward. Eris and Drifter are doing a long investigation of the egregore. This is something that we see on the armor set, the Eidolon armor set, that is first, it's them speaking on a ship, on the derelict, talking about the egregore that Drifter has. He mentions where he found it, and that's where he lets Eris know that you can light it on fire, and it will do weird things to pyramid tech. We get a few cards of Eris testing that, the European pyramid, and then taking it to the throne world. While they are there, we get some very interesting back and forth between Drifter and Eris, and they also both seem to be sharing this secret goal. There's something that both of them are looking for, and whether they have told each other what they are looking for or not remains to be seen, but they both know that the other is searching for something that is best left hidden, but it will most likely be used to great effect to either defend the last city or in kind of the sort of the same vein, but attack and defeat the witness. Because of this, the final radio transmission of the season that we get is Eris speaking to Drifter. Drifter's found something in the reef. He's not supposed to. Eris says, "Don't tell the Guardian. Don't tell anybody," and sets him on his way. Eris also mentions that she found something in the pyramid that the Drifter should see, which may be related to Nezarec's Whisper, the glaive that we get this season. That in it, the little tagline for the glaive mentions that it was given to someone, most likely Nezarec, as a gift from Rolk, a copy of Rolk's original glaive, which is what the Enigma was too. It also insinuates in there that Eris is searching for Nezarec. Eris goes through, uses stasis to defeat some hive, walks into a room in the pyramid, uses the power of her Ahamkara bone in the Soulfire Circle to teleport to a different section of the pyramid. And while she is there is when she finds the blade of the Nezarec's Whisper glaive. So it's assumed that that is what she wants to show the Drifter. This would be the second link to Nezarec that would be associated to the Drifter, the first being Nezarec's third or fourth tomb that he claims to have found while out in the Expanse. It is unclear whether Eris or the Drifter secretly looped us in on this broadcast between them, or if this is something that was intercepted by Hidden or someone like that and given to us. I don't see how the Drifter and Eris would be able to be tapped into like that. They are both extremely secretive and very well-versed covert operatives types of agents. So I'm not sure how the broadcast would have been intercepted. It has to have been sent to us on purpose by Eris, is what I would assume. And it's being done just so that we're aware Drifter is doing something, but it's not time for Drifter to actually tell us what we're doing. And we're kind of getting that from Eris in the thing as well. When she says, "Don't tell the Guardian," it's like she's telling us, hey, he's doing something, but you don't really need to know what it is yet, just making you aware. There are a few other things in the Season of the Haunted that happen that are very important to note. We're going to go ahead and just address some of the plot points that are still existing out there that could be important, that came from this season specifically. We obviously have the Helm. The Helm is now a ship that floats around in space. It is flying, so it will absolutely be pivotal to the future of the Destiny 2 story. We have the Nezarec's Whisper, as was just discussed, the glaive. We have the Drifter is out searching for something. We have that Mara Sov sees something beyond the stars, most likely looking at the Witness. All of the automatons that you meet during the Sever missions speak of watching everything happen in the Leviathan. Callus can feel everything. Callus basically is the Leviathan now. And wherever Callus has gone from there, either whether it be the pyramid or anything else, he's not gone there physically. It does not seem that Callus has a physical body anymore. But we don't have a whole lot of other plot points from this season specifically. This season did a really good job of taking plot points from other seasons and tying them all up nice and neat. So that is where we are standing. That is the last time on Destiny 2 from Season of the Haunted. We are moving forward now into Season 18. We are not 100% certain what it's going to be about. We know that there will be a raid returning, and most likely, if it follows anything like it did last year, the raid returning will be themed to whatever is happening in next season. So it's either going to be Hive and Taken themed, and we'll have the King's Fall raid return where we fight Oryx, or it will be Siva themed and Rasputin themed, and we'll have the return of Wrath of the Machine. So we will know more whenever we have the showcase on August 23rd, and it's able to bring us forward into the next season, because that happens right before the season will reveal. So that is the last time replay of Season of the Haunted Destiny 2. I look forward to playing through the new season that is going to be launching on August 23rd. It is going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to the new raid and everything that's happening with it. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us today while we went over and did a small little recap of everything that happened in Season of the Haunted. And I look forward to see you next season in Season 18. Thank you. Have a great day. Peace.